Flipping it up and out. Bogues! A recent block by Bogut.
Good recovery by Andrew Bogut.
Let's get rogue.
Welcome to Rogue Bogues, another basketball episode. Thanks for joining us. We've got a lot to get through today. We're going to go through our Western Conference previews. I think the first game is tomorrow or the day after Australian time. I think it's tomorrow, right, Pro?
No, I think it opens up on Tuesday.
Your Tuesday, yeah, so 2 days Australian time. But yeah, a lot going on. How'd you go with your West previews?
Not bad, Bogues. Trying to recreate the whale here, and also have a fantasy league draft coming up in like a half an hour. So I will be wearing two hats about halfway through our broadcast. But I'll keep you updated about my draft.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow!
Yeah.
Wow! You're going to be multitasking. This is dangerous. This is very dangerous.
Without question.
I don't like pro multitasking, but not a whole lot of news this week. We'll just get into a little bit extensions. Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins have broke the bank in Golden State Pro. Jordan Poole, 4 years, $143 million. That obviously kicks in after his rookie deal expires. Wiggins, 4 years, $109 million. After this season, which this season he's making a fair bit as well. I think it adds up to 143 if you include this season. Take a punch, Pro, and you get paid, I guess.
Bogues, someone who's been unemployed for a few years, I'd take a punch for like $50. This guy took a punch for $140 million. And don't tell me that like media is shaming him to get this contract done now versus this summer. That punch didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. I'll take it. You'll take it if you're those two guys. I mean, they were famously quoted as saying they were both about to get the bag when they won their championship, and that has now eventuated. But the Golden State Warriors payroll, Pro, it is insane. So their luxury tax payment, their tax bill, is more than numerous NBA teams' salary. I'll say that again. Their tax bill is more than some teams' whole salary. So they're going to most likely exceed $500 million once the roster is filled. That factors into obviously Draymond Green opting into his $27.6 million player option. So with 12 players currently, their salary is $215 million. Their tax is $268 million, if you don't mind, Pro, and that adds up to $483. So if Draymond opts in, it's going to bump it way over $500 million. Absolutely insane. They could basically start a whole other franchise with that tax bill, Pro.
Bogues, there's a price to winning. And if you want to own a team in this league, I don't really feel bad for any owner that has to dip in their pocket for luxury tax money. Everybody knows to deal with this. These teams are getting, that are getting sold or getting purchased for $2 billion, $2.5 billion. Teams are going to go over $3 billion, $4 billion. Some of the higher market teams. You're going to have to keep this championship team intact, and most championship teams intact. You're going to have to go into your pockets. Now, most teams will never get into the pockets like that. But you know what? I mean, if this is what they want to do, look, the Warriors lecture us about everything. You got an owner who wants to say they're light years ahead of the curve. You got a coach, who wants to, lecture us on human rights and, politics, and allows his captain to punch somebody in the face and not say anything about it. You got a captain who wants to lecture us about being a captain, yet wants to punch his teammate in the face. So, hey, you got to go in your pockets for a couple $100 million. That's probably not the norm on most teams, obviously, but look, that's what it is. Like, there's certain thresholds on this luxury tax deal where if you go a little bit over the tax, it's like $1 for dollar. Then it goes like $1.50 to dollar. I think they're at their point,
four, right?
They're like 4-1. Yeah. So every dollar you spend over a certain threshold, it's $4 for every dollar. So it's expensive, man.
Yeah, so if you essentially you sign a role player and you're like, oh, he's a bargain at $3 million. Well, no, it's hitting your cap at 12 to 15 million. So insane. I don't think this number is going to be broken in a long time, Pro. I just don't see it. Like you said, teams edge the cap. They go over the softer cap a little bit, but then once it starts getting to 1.5, 2, 2.5, teams just don't go there. They don't want to go there. And Golden State, I mean, people say, have they set the example for what you need to do now? I don't think teams are going to go that far. $268 million in tax. That's kind of crazy. But, you do have to spend, and they're kind of, it's tough for them because they brought in some great players that were on high contracts and made some great trades, and now they want to keep him. They got to pay him, and like you said, if you want to continue to have the same team and keep that team together, I mean, they're not guaranteed a championship this season. I don't think. I think the West has gotten a little bit better at the top at least. I think they're in the running. They're favourites by a lot of bookies, or they're tied favourites with a few other teams. But this could be, potentially the most expensive team that doesn't win a championship. And but if they win it, they look like geniuses, like you said. They're light years ahead of everyone. So it's going to be interesting to watch how that all unfolds. It does obviously put the writing on the wall for Draymond, possibly pro, because I mean, he can, like I said, he can opt in at $27.6 million. He doesn't want. I don't think he's going to opt in for a season. I just don't see him doing that. I think he's going to want the respect. I mean, he's a double-digit year guy for the Warriors. I don't know what year he's in. He was drafted, I think, 13, 14. So this might be his 10th year, or 12, 13. Yeah, this might be his 10th year. So he's going to want that respect. He's been part of numerous championship runs. He's going to be kind of a little bit kind of boisterous about that. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they can give him. If they give him a long-term extension, that number of 483 and bill they're paying all up with tax and salary is going to probably go to 550, right? 600. So, I don't see him doing it. Do you think the writing's on the wall for Draymond? I know you've been big on, who takes him in a trade, who signs him, but it just doesn't see how this is. Are they really going to spend that much money to keep that team together with Draymond?
It's going to be really difficult to do, Bogues, to be honest. To me, I think the only option that he has is, like you said, he won't just re-up the year. He'll probably want to do an extension or opt out and try somewhere else. I don't think he's $25 million, $30 million a year relevant for any team in the league anymore. I do think there are a few teams that might want to pay him, but I don't think he could impact a team and just sort of play at that level that he would in Golden State and maybe a couple others. Maybe a Dallas or a Miami or something like that. And even in those situations, it's not ideal for him. What I think he should do, in my opinion, and people will probably laugh it off, is if I'm him, especially what happened with the punch and trying to sort of reshape his name. Not that he ever thinks of it that way, because he probably thinks, that it's not his fault and it's someone else's fault, if I had to guess. If I'm him, I'd probably just do a Richard Jefferson deal, where, remember, Richard had that last year, I think with San Antonio, he had that player option, for like 15, and then he went down to like 9 or 10 million a year on his extension. If I'm Draymond, and maybe even Golden State, if you could afford it, I'd say, okay, opt out of it and just do like a 4-year 60 or something like that, where it's 15, it's cap friendly and non-guaranteed in the 4th year. Because again, I wonder, if
he's not doing that, bro.
True,
he's not doing that.
But what do you?
I get the method to your madness.
Yeah.
It helps his brand and his image. But if he's making 27.6 for the player option, he's not taking 60 over 4 with a non-guarantee. There's no chance.
No doubt.
Just from a pride point of view. But I get your reasoning though. I get your reasoning.
Okay, so if you're the Sacramento Kings, Bogues, right, or you're even somebody worse than that, say Sacramento, because they're really bad and there's no way they're going to get the French kid. But unless they get really lucky in the lottery, but say you get $29 million in salary cap relief, you got 29 under, just say, just a hypothetical. Do you sign Draymond Green for $25 million? I mean, is there any team that isn't if he isn't the last guy that puts you over the top for a championship team, like a couple of teams could be if they want to sign him. If you're not that team and you're a bad team, do you sign Draymond Green for $25 million?
Not if I'm a bad team, no. I think that's a very valid point. I think he's a very, very important piece that can put you over the top on a championship team. When we look at that, I mean, one team I'd look at, Portland's not a championship team, but he could fit there. I think Denver. I think he could fit in Denver because you got a 5 that can shoot the 3 ball. I don't think he can. Yeah, and pass and play multiple positions. Even though he's a 5, he can handle the ball. He can play point center. We're talking about Jokic, obviously. You can put Draymond next to him as an elite defender, passer, facilitator. That's kind of what Denver need. They're pretty poor defensively. He would severely help them and maybe put them over the top. So there is a few teams, but I agree with you. The bottom end teams, your Detroit, the leaks about Detroit paying him, it doesn't make sense because they're not in the hunt for a conference finals. Maybe they get Draymond and then a couple other players, and maybe they start hunting a play-in/late playoff spot. But Draymond's not going to want to do that. He's not going to want to go to a team like that. He wants to win as well. So, and it doesn't make sense for Detroit to do. So I don't believe that rumor. I think that's some leverage coming from Clutch. Yeah, you're right. There's probably less than, count on one hand, on one hand that could, number one, absorb his salary and pay him and actually have him fit to make them better. The young players, especially now, unfortunately, with this punch, there's probably teams out there that maybe are a bit younger that need a veteran like Draymond Green would probably think twice now. That's just the reality of it. It's the harsh truth. Do we want a guy that just punched one of the young stars in the face to come into our organization? Let's say, making this up, OKC, even Detroit, with a bunch of young assets. Who can say that's probably the knock on him now is teams might be a little bit more worried that we're potentially looking at maybe bringing a guy like Draymond Green in. So yeah, there's not a lot out there for him. The Lakers rumors playing with LeBron. I mean, I'd like to see that. I don't think it's going to happen because Draymond's skill set to me is, playing with Steph and Clay, handoffs. He's very good reading out of that handoff split action. He's been in that same system. That's where he excels. He's allowed to roam defensively. You go to the Lakers, you're gonna tell LeBron to go and split games and run his ass off splits and back cuts and all that kind of stuff? Please, he's not going to do that. Like, LeBron's just going to be like, give me the ball in the pick and roll. I come off pick and roll, you roll, get the fuck out of my way, and I'm going to get us a bucket, or we're going to throw it down to Anthony Davis. So sometimes it's a case of be careful what you wish for, and I think Draymond's skill set is most valuable, like tenfold anywhere else, with the Golden State Warriors. The only other team I'd say he'd be as valuable was the old Portland Trailblazers, when they had a similar kind of Splash Brothers in Dame and CJ, like two scoring guards where he would really help facilitate that and you could run a similar offense. That's probably it, right?
Yeah, and the Lakers, Bogues, like everyone wants to say, well, Draymond's going to go to the Lakers now, no doubt about it. If I'm Golden State, you literally give away your chances, in my opinion, to be a realistic NBA champion if you trade Draymond, especially to the Lakers where you're going to get Westbrook and 2 picks back. So if I'm Golden State, there's no way I'm trading him to the Lakers because they've got nothing that I want that's going to make it worth it. They're not giving you Anthony Davis. The only thing they're going to give you is Westbrook and those 2 picks. So, yeah, and I agree with you. Like, there's just not many teams that's going to go there. And, it's interesting, man. It's now with Golden State with their tax bill too, like teams, people who listen to the show got to understand too, it's not like they just acquire these players in free agency to get this tax bill. There are only a few teams that could, like in the history of the league, even in the last 10 years, that could even get up to this point. Because besides the Miami Heat that acquired their players through trade when they won the championship with LeBron and Chris Bosh to put with Wade, like you have to draft them. Golden State drafted all these guys that they could keep like bird writing them and go over the cap to sign their own guys. So, they like, you just can't acquire players like the Lakers with LeBron and all those guys. They can't get up to that tax bill because once you sign a couple of free agents or bring somebody in the cap room on a trade, your cap's done. But you could keep going over to sign your own guys. So that's why their tax bill is so high. And it just puts you in a interesting situation. But, in Oklahoma City, when they drafted those 3 MVPs with Durant, Westbrook, and James Harden, they could have gone to that level, but ownership was against it. That's why they had to trade Harden out of town. But like, it's really hard to do what Golden State did. But all those guys were acquired through first round picks. Draymond was in the second round, and they were just able to acquire, just keep on re-signing their guys and adding some select pieces around their team. And then you bring in Wiggins on a trade, and you sort of crafty with your cap and acquiring players. But yeah, they're in a weird situation with this Draymond thing. I'll tell you what, Bogues, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe not 4 years, 60, but if he signs a bigger, like a long deal, 3 or 4 years, I would say non-guaranteed on the 4th. Chris Paul's deal, like non-guaranteed on his last year with Phoenix. But I would say that they will I predict he will take a discount at some point. Not a huge discount, but I don't think he will make as much, if not more, in his next deal than he will what he's making now. in my opinion. For what is player options worth, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with your methods of the madness. I just don't agree that Draymond takes it. I think he'll be very, very he'll feel disrespected and slighted at an offer like that, and it would take him. You're saying that he goes to the organization and says, "I'll do you a sweetheart deal," but yeah, I just don't. I don't see it. I think it makes sense on face value. It totally makes sense. It helps repair things, gives him some good PR. So that all makes sense, but that all yet to be seen. But anyway, the Golden State Warriors, they're making a lot of money there anyway, but they are spending a lot as well. So interesting times. And just broke now, Brandon Clark with the Memphis Grizzlies, 4 years, $52 million. Pro, you like that deal?
Yeah, solid. Look, they're doing it right in Memphis. They've got, they got good role players, around Ja Morant, and that's what they're trying to do. They've got, they got a good roster. They've got solid players, and I think that, Brandon Clark fits into them. In my opinion, he's a good guy coming off the bench. Gives them 10 and 5. $13 million a year is about where you want to be. Steven Adams signing for 10. He's signing for 13. Desmond Bain's gonna. I don't think he got his deal yet, if I'm not mistaken. But like he's gonna be a high level money guy. Dylan Brooks. It'll be interesting what they do with him. But they're doing the right thing. They've got a franchise player. And they're putting all these good, solid role players around them, and then Jaren Jackson trying to be, sort of an elevated role player. So I sort of like it. It's cap friendly.
13 a year. Yeah, 13 a year for a center is about right for a decent role playing center. So I think they got that one right. But they should hopefully take a step forward this season. Delly makes the cut. Matthew Dellavedova makes the cut of the Sacramento Kings, Pro. Now, I'm a conspiracy theorist by nature, but this is not from anybody, but I think there was somewhat a handshake agreement from Mike Brown before camp. That's my tip on it. This isn't coming from anyone. This is just my hunch. For those that don't know, Mike Brown was a coach that gave Delly his first shot in Cleveland. Loved the way he picked up full court. He basically famously came to that training camp as like the 25th guy on the roster and ended up making the cut and got a guaranteed spot just by working as hard as he could with Kyrie, and then obviously LeBron came later and all that kind of stuff. So, and Mike Brown's comment solidified my thoughts around that because he said something along the lines of, the thing with Delly is I know all throughout the season he's going to be playing as hard as he can in our 3-on-3s and our 4-on-4s and our practice and our drills, and if you're not going hard, you're going to he's going to make you look stupid, and that's exactly right. Delly's going to bring it every night. So for Delly to leave, 2 more years at Melbourne United at big money, just in the rearview mirror and go to Sacramento, I think there was a little tap like, hey man, like you're going to be good. Just come to camp. We'll take care of you. So, but that's great. I think it's great for Delly. I think he can, I think Sacramento needs someone like that. They need, he's not going to play a lot of minutes for him, but they just need some professionalism down there. They got Harrison now that's very, very professional and meticulous with the way he handles himself as a pro. I think you get 2 or 3 of those guys in the locker room with some of those young guys. I think you can have a pretty good influence, Pro. So for people looking at this, it's not a big deal as far as X's and O's and stats. Delly's not going to be putting up numbers, but I think it's more that locker room of like, hey, Mike Brown's got that insurance policy now that De'Aaron Fox, you want to mess around? Cool. We'll just put Delly in for a couple of minutes. Or my young guys, you guys don't want to work as hard as you should be. Cool. You're going to lose your minutes out to a guy who's at least going to play hard for me. So congrats to Delly on that one, Pro. Yeah,
I'll tell you what kind of handshake deal it was, considering what type of shape Delly's body's in these days with his age and the miles he's got on it. The handshake deal is, hey, slide half your check every 2 weeks in this bus station terminal locker, because I'm taking half your money to put you back on this roster. So that's the kind of handshake deal I'm signing with that guy in today's deal. No,
it's just a vet min deal.
Yeah,
it's just a vet min deal.
No, it's fine. You need guys like that.
Sacramento.
Yeah, you need guys that you trust and tough.
Especially Sacramento. Yeah. Sacramento are a fucking basket case. They need any veteran help that's a steady head in that locker room they can get, man. I would argue they need 5 of them because they've been bad for so long, and they just continue to have young guys that use that place as a revolving door and then go sign somewhere else,
No doubt about it. I agree. It's like you said, not a huge story or anything, but it's great that, he's back in the league. He's the type of guy that you want on your team. He pushes everybody. He's a great vet. There aren't many of those guys left in the league. They're going by the wayside these days, and with leadership, real true leadership and toughness. So it's good. It's good to have him. It's good to have him.
Especially when you consider Dwight Howard's comments the last couple of days. Did you see those?
No, what's he saying?
Well, just to your point about those veterans, there's not many left. Is like, you are a veteran. Dwight Howard's a veteran. He's a role player. He can still be in the league for another 2 or 3 years with that athleticism and the way he plays, a backup center. He basically came out and said, "Oh no, I can't sign with anyone because they won't let me be me and let me play the way I want to play." And it's like, dude, you're in your mid-30s now. You still can be a valuable piece on a like a Philly or someone, a backup big role. But I just thought of that because to your point of there's not many guys that, once you get to year 10, 11, 12, and even if you were a superstar, like you're gonna start being molded into a vet, and you can get yourself another 6 or 7 years just by being a good guy, a good veteran. But Dwight Howard, I thought he turned that corner. It felt like he did with the Lakers and Philly the last couple of runs, where he kind of understood, come in, hit people, set screens, but I saw those comments and I was like, you just shat all over your own free agency, bro. Like, I don't think GM's going to read that and be like, not worth the hassle for a guaranteed vet min contract, pro.
With guys like Dwight Howard, you saw that with Allen Iverson. You saw it with select other players around the league. Like, GMs, coaches, and owners take your shit like when you could really help the team, even if like they don't want to be around you, but you bring talent and you obviously bring a certain amount of value where you're relevant in the league. They keep you on rosters. The second that those guys start going down a little bit athletically or skill set wise, they don't want anything to do with you. That's why you see a lot of guys like that out of the league at 30, 31, 32 years old, because once you can't play at that high level anymore, look, Delhi can't help any team physically, in my opinion. 27 teams probably can't help physically if he played 25 minutes a night. I just don't think he could. But the reason why you keep him is the stuff that we talked about, the leadership, the toughness, great teammate, professional. He brings that professional mindset every day. A lot of players don't bring that. Now, they'll help your team physically or talent-wise, but you just don't like being around them for the most part. And a lot of players, not most, but there's a good amount. But that's why, like, from a young age, if you learn how to be a professional, learn how to be coached, do the PR stuff in the community, go to the hospitals and the schools, like just be a good pro. They'll keep you to your 39. Look what's going on down in Miami. Adonis like 70 years old, but they love having him because locker room guy, stable vet, good with the young guys, good in the community. And they'll take care of him even like past his playing days to be in the front office and making 2, 3, 4, 500,000, 800,000 a year, because they just like having you around. But the people who take that for granted and just blow off at the mouth. Look, at 23, Dwight Howard could have said that. No one would have cared because he's Dwight Howard and he's a juggernaut. Now, not so much. And they don't want that around anymore. And they don't need you anyway. So, you could keep saying that stuff. Ennis Cantor, same thing. Like when Ennis had a skill set and he was double-double and the league was a little bigger, like they'll deal with him being a little goofy. But once your skill set starts going down a little bit and you run your mouth or, you're hard to be around and you start doing some things, you're radioactive. No one wants you around and no one cares if you're around anymore. That's why, like, being a professional at a young age, man, it's invaluable. And people they blow it off and it ends up hurting them in the long run.
Yeah, it is. I just thought this kind of interesting. And just a quick shout out, Dyson Daniels, pro. He has some people turning their heads in New Orleans. I mean, I think you're going to have to find ways to give him minutes because he's an intangibles guy. The old school Kirilenko. Remember the lines he used to have, like 6'6", 5', 4', 3", 6 steals, 5 assists. He's one of those guys, and I think he's doing a lot of little things there. And I've heard from some people there that he's had a really good camp. Look, his shot's a bit streaky, but he's young. But they're not worried about that. They're loving the way he's guarding multiple positions, long, athletic, can push the ball, can get in the paint. So shout out to Dyson Daniel as well, another Australian doing good things in New Orleans. Let's get into our West preview, pro, so we don't have too much time taken from your prestigious draft. Let's do I'll give you my top 4 and then we'll do the rest after that. And then we'll go into detail. I just want to see who your top 4 is. So I've gone a little against the grain. I just want to try to get one. Maybe I'll get one right in 6-7 months and I look like a genius, or it could be a complete flop. But I'm going LA Clippers at 1, pro. I'm going the Dallas Mavs at 2. Golden State at 3, and Phoenix at 4. Who do you have in your top 4?
I've got Clippers, Golden State.
1, is this in order?
Yeah, yep. Clippers 1,
Okay.
Golden State 2, Dallas 3, and Phoenix 4.
Yeah, so we're the same. We're the same. We just flip-flopped Dallas and Golden State. So, okay. And then beyond that, I'll read the rest out, read yours out, and then we'll get in depth a little bit on each of them. I've got Denver at 5. I've got Memphis at 6, Minnesota at 7, New Orleans at 8. The Lakers at 9, and number 10. 10's a dice roll for me. I mean, there's a couple of teams that could fit into 10, but I got Portland at 10, 11 Houston, 12 OKC, 13 Utah, 14 Sac, and 15 the Spurs. What do you got?
All right, so at 5, I've got Denver. Memphis, I've got at 6. New Orleans at 7. Minnesota at 8. I've got Portland at 9. Lakers 10. Houston at 11. Sacramento 12. Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and Utah.
Pretty similar. A few changes. So we didn't get on the phone and discuss these. So for people out there thinking how they get these right, we just we both winged it. But let's get into the Clippers at 1. I think they're a very, very deep team. They have a lot of guys who can play multiple positions. They have a lot of guys that can score. Maybe could use another big man potentially, but they got a couple of bigs that are a few years in the league and a rookie. So who knows how that goes with the big spot? But they do like to go small. Ty Lue lauded as one of the best coaches in the NBA by many. I think there's no excuses this season, pro. Pending health, of course. I mean, they need to stay healthy. And look, I'm going to use that asterisk of pending health for all of these predictions because if there's massive injury, let's say Dallas loses Luka or the Clippers lose Kawhi or Paul George, different story. But I mean, they have multiple lineups that can do all kinds of things. I mean, their starting lineup, I think, will be Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Morris, and Zubac, I believe. They had Powell in there as well, but that was when Kawhi rested. So I like Powell off the bench as just a gunner. I think he can come off and just give him 20 balls off that bench. They got John Wall off the bench. They got Covington. They got Batum. They got Terrence Mann and Kennard. They're all so someone's getting screwed here, pro. That's an 11-man rotation already right there. Kennard was kind of good for them later on in the season. Mann's developing. Batum going to lose a bit of minutes, I think, just as an aging veteran. Then Covington, Powell, and Wall. But I like their squad. They're very, very deep. I think they're the one team in the West that can really sustain an injury to one of those big stars, I think. I really do. Like, I think, if God forbid George or Kawhi go down, I think they've got enough to at least be consistent and still be in the middle of the pack in the West and sustain one of those stars missing 30, 40 games. So that's why I like this roster, having them at number 1. What are your thoughts?
Bogues, I totally agree. I think the most important thing you have in the NBA is you have to have your 2 stars, whoever those are. And obviously Leonard and George are that for them. But I think it's really important to have a second unit that could really come in and change the aspect of the game and change the flow of the game, can score, could, give you some different dynamics in their lineup. Like you said, I think they need another true center on their team coming off the bench, maybe a defensive guy or a role, a lob threat, something that just could protect the paint. But I just think they have so many weapons. And let's not forget I'm not really counting John Wall to give them much. I'm not a big John Wall guy, and he's been off for a little bit. But having him in your second unit, with the Powells and the Manns and the Batums and the Covingtons, really gives you a different dynamic. And I just think they're really good. They've got star power, they've got shooting, they've got toughness, they've got that Draymond type guy in Marcus Morris, meaning that the enforcer, tough guy. Protect their stars. If they could stay healthy, it's sky's the limit for this team.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing them healthy. I mean, it seems like we say the same thing every season about them, though. I'm looking forward to seeing them healthy, and they just can't get healthy. So hopefully they can. But they're a very, very deep team. And like you said, I like John Wall off the bench. If he's, 75%, 60, 70% of his former self, that's still a great bench player. Like with his speed and his burst up the court, it's kind of very valuable because you're bringing him in, let's say, 3 minutes left in the first quarter. The game pace is kind of, being consistent, and then he comes in and just, he's pushing the brake and getting up and down, using his strengths in the open floor. So I like that. I got Dallas at 2. I think, that they would have been close to somewhere up there with a healthy Luka, right, last season. So I think with a healthy Luka all year, they're going to win more regular season games. There's another season they're together for longer. Potential starting five is looking like Luka, Reggie Bullock, Dinwiddie, Finney Smith, and JaVale McGee. Now they could insert Kleber at the 4 potentially for Dinwiddie and bring Dinwiddie off the bench. I know that's what they did last season. I probably would prefer that and have Dinwiddie come off the bench gunning. The problem is Hardaway Jr. is going to come off the bench gunning. They got Wood, Kleber, Hardaway Jr., Bertans, and Josh Green round out probably their rotation for the most part. You probably can't have a Dinwiddie and a Hardaway Jr. off the bench because they're both similar kind of volume scorers, shooters. So I see why they've done that. But Kleber's going to be invaluable to them defensively at some point in the regular season. But that's why I just have them based on I think they would have had a much better record last season if Luka didn't come in kind of out of shape and got hurt early. So he looks like he's in phenomenal shape, and I think they're going to come out of the gates bursting pro.
Bogues, Luka has as much impact on winning, in my opinion, than almost any player in the league. Not any player in the league, but almost. And, he can take any type of lineup and really put it to his advantage, especially the shape that he's in now and where his body's at. I just think that he's going to take them to another level. You've got guys like Dorian Finney-Smith and, you put them with other players that could sort of stretch the floor and do some things. I really think that they're going to be really tough to beat. I mean, you put them with the Reggie Bullocks of the world and, spread the floor. And then you've got Hardaways and Dinwiddies and Klebers defensively. They got a good role-playing group. And, I just think that the sky's the limit for them. I think that if they could just continue the shooting, Luka could stay healthy and play at that pace of, in that level. Now, they're going to miss Brunson for sure. They're going to miss some of that. And I think that that's a legitimate concern, not having that steady second ball handling scorer. I don't really trust Dinwiddie. He just really hasn't done that throughout his career. And
but they get a healthy,
so that's an issue. But
they get a healthy Hardaway Jr. back. Don't forget to kind of, he can score. So I think with that Brunson, not as much of a ball handler creator as Brunson, but I think having Hardaway Jr. might kind of help out a little bit.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. I think that, those guys could definitely, really, take the load that Brunson really showed last year as far as, what he brought, ball handle wise, scoring wise, toughness wise. But again, I trust Brunson. Hardaway, I do trust. Dinwiddie, I really don't as much, but they got a good group. They got a really talented group that play together. They play hard. They guard people. JaVale McGee, I'm a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of Christian Wood, even though he brings him a lot of talent. I do think that he could be an issue, with just being consistent every night. But look, they've got a good nucleus of players, and they've got one of the best players in the league that really impacts winning with the ability to make big shots, score, and also find people. And he's the best passer in the game. Well, him and Jokic, I guess you could make an argument for 1 or 2, but that's sort of where I see it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm looking forward to seeing them this season. Golden State, I've got at 3. The only reason I have them lower than some people do, I mean, the bookies have them as equal favourites, is I just don't think they value their seed too much as other teams do. I think they get through the regular season to get through it. Their main goal in a regular season is just to be healthy once the playoffs start. So April comes, they want to make sure their guys are surging towards 100% health, whether they've been hurt. If they're limping mid-season, Kerr's got no problem with just saying, you're taking a week off. We're resting you tonight. I don't care if your name's Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, or if you're a bench player, we're going to give you some rest. So that's why I just don't think they value the regular season games as much as probably the teams above them will. But they're going to be good. I think they're obviously defending the championship. The Draymond Green thing's a spanner in the works. We'll see how that plays out. But they've got like 2 different lineups. So their starting lineup is kind of the complete opposite of their bench. Their bench is obviously very young and athletic. Their starting lineup's more poised, not as athletic, but more poised and more kind of know how to play the game of basketball, like kind of X's and O's wise. Whereas I think that second group has a little bit of the X's and O's, but like more athletic. Let them off the leash, let them just go, right? So as of now, Steph, Klay, I still think Wiggins starts at the 3. I still think they're bringing Poole off the bench, in my opinion, just because I think Wiggins brings a lot defensively. Kerr just made some comments that he would like to see Poole get much better defensively so he can play more than 25 minutes a night, which was interesting after you just pay the guy 140 odd million. But and then Looney at the 5 with Draymond at the 4. Wiseman's going to be an interesting one. I'm interested to hear your thoughts about where he fits in with this whole thing, because they don't like playing, traditional 5-man a lot. Jordan Poole's there, obviously Kuminga, Moody, DiVincenzo I think was a great pickup for him. They got Lamb there and JaMychal Green, who might even find some minutes to back up Draymond. So I think they're a pretty deep roster as well. Just interested to hear what you think on R.E. Wiseman and if Poole comes off the bench for you.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of getting, having your second unit sort of have some scoring and some scoring punch. I'm a big fan of it just because, Poole can give you that. It gives you scoring, gives you shooting. I don't really care what I'm paying him. If he's getting starter minutes and he's, closing some games, but getting that 26 to 30 minutes a night, even more obviously for 140 million, that's what you expect. But I'm not really worried about it. Look, you signed him. That stuff's done. So let's just go with it. And I'm a big fan of just sort of, again, playing your best players at, wherever you sort of see fit. Wiseman, I think, could give him some minutes, and Kuminga could give him some minutes off the bench. Depending on how they're going to put the starting 5, I would probably have it like Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, Green, and Looney. And, second unit of like some type of, Poole, Kuminga, Wiseman, JaMychal Green, sort of type guys, throw Moses Moody in there once in a while. But look, they're going to figure out their lineup and their deal, throughout the season. And they're going to go with the best, their best type of lineup. And I think that, they're going to be potent. They're going to give you shooting, scoring veterans. They've been there before. So it's going to be they're going to be a force to be reckoned with for sure. So, I mean, I'm not a huge Wiseman guy, but, I could see how they get, he brings value to them for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that all fits in. Obviously something they haven't had for a while, a big, long, athletic 5-man, but never look comfortable in their split game stuff, having him at the top. So it was more pick and roll stuff with him or having him in the dunker. So we'll see how much better he's got this summer and in the off season. Phoenix Suns in 4 for both of us, right? Yeah, look, I think that they'll win games in the regular season. I'm just not sold on their team dynamic. I'll say it again. I've said it from the start of the season. When the going gets tough in a playoff series, I'm not sold on them. And that's why, I mean, they could potentially still, I almost had them at 1 because I'm like, I feel like they're really good in the regular season. They just play free and loose, but it's when it knuckles down and gets tight, they struggle. And that's kind of been the MO of Chris Paul-led teams. He's got his teams deep a couple of times, but just there's always a series where things just capitulate and everything falls over. But Aiden, obviously, they matched his offer. He's starting there in the center. They've got Booker, Bridges, Chris Paul. Is Cam Johnson going to start pro, you think? I mean, they got a Kogi as well who could fill that Crowder role as a physical defender. Saric, don't forget, he's healthy as well. They got Shamet. I mean, who do you see starting, filling in for Crowder? Cam Johnson probably?
I would say Cam Johnson if you're going to just sort of try to play around with the dynamic of the lineup, in my opinion. So like I would have their starting lineup being Paul, Booker, Bridges, Johnson, Ayton, in some type of form with that. And then, you come off with Payne, Shamet, Lee, Craig, and Saric. By envelope, maybe Okogie could play in there too. Lee could give you offense, Okogie could give you defense. It'll be interesting.
And Landale, don't forget Landale.
Landale will be in there for sure. I would play Landale definitely coming off the bench as my starting, my second unit stretch 4. If the fucker could ever call me back, I'll even put him higher than that. But no,
he shot the piss out of it. He shot the piss out of it the last couple of games in the preseason too. Well, so hopefully that carries on.
I think he's been listening to the show and hearing the shit that we're giving him. I think we sort of get light a fire under the guy. The guy should be giving us a little. He should be giving us that deli money that he's giving Mike Brown to keep him on the roster.
Yeah, what they're saying about Phoenix, I think they are where they are. I don't see them winning a championship. I think that window is going to probably close in the next year or two. They've put all their off-court stuff behind them. They'll still be competitive in the regular season, just don't see them winning it. Number 5, I've got the Denver Nuggets. You had them in 5 as well, I believe. I think they're a very good basketball team, especially now that they're healthy. Jamal Murray's back. They're probably going to start Jamal Murray, KCP potentially, you think? He's probably maybe at the 2, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon and Jokic potentially. I mean, is there another guard I'm missing here that would probably start instead of KCP? Yeah, I pretty much got it right. I mean, their bench isn't too deep. DeAndre Jordan back up center. Ish Smith, Jack White, Australian, he made the roster. Bruce Brown, yeah, their bench isn't great, and that's a concern. Jeff Green, obviously veteran. Bones Highland's a pretty good bucket getter off the bench for him, actually. But yeah, I think they'll be competitive. They're a very good team. They're going to win games in Denver. The altitude is a bitch, especially if you go on there on a back-to-back. After that, half the time you play there, you're waiting for that first time out to hit because your lungs are just on fire. So they'll steal games in Denver. They'll be a very good team if healthy, but I've got them at 5 pro. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they're a good team, Bogues. I think when it comes down with them, obviously staying healthy, but having enough firepower to get you through the playoffs. I think that you need scoring. You need people that could fill it up. It can't just be one person or, you got to have that second player that you can go to that sort of takes all the pressure off Jokic. Look, Murray was hurt last year. Obviously didn't play in the playoffs. And do they have enough offense? They have enough consistent perimeter shooting, to really take them to the next level. Can they win, more than one series? And I think that's what they run into year in and year out. KCP's just sort of erratic offensively. Porter's got to stay healthy. He's erratic shooting the ball, but he could score and he's talented. And Aaron Gordon just sort of mentally has got to take that next step to really be that solid player. Their second unit, tough guys coming off the bench. Ish Smith, Bones Highland, Bruce Brown's tough. Jeff Green's been around. DeAndre Jordan, if he could, sit through the whole year, stay with it through the whole year, can give him some things. I just don't think they have enough scoring to go deep into it. That's why I think Dallas is a better team. And even Phoenix, even though Phoenix is going through some stuff, because those guys have scoring, they've got consistent perimeter shooting. That's what just Denver's missing. I love Mike Malone's, I love him as a coach. I think he does a great job, gets the most out of him. It's just, can they produce enough offense when teams are doubling and throwing 2-3 defenders at Jokic and they got to spread the floor off double teams, and they have enough guys that could step up and be consistent and sort of take them to that next level and that next step.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sold on their bench. That's why I got them at 5. I still think they'll be competitive, but they're kind of middle of the pack in that top 8 in the West. Memphis in 6. Fun run and gun shit talking team. They're going to be good. I think they're going to be really good. Some games, and then some games are just going to be just a young team. I think they're a potential team that could beat the best team one night and then go down to Detroit the next night. That's just kind of the feel I get for them. They should be a little bit better with that consistency this season. John Morant, Desmond Bain, Dylan Brooks would be their 3-guard rotation, I would assume. Jackson Jr., interesting if they start Steven Adams at the 5, will they keep him off the bench like they did in the playoffs? I think he goes back to starting the 5. Teams like to start big. They'll keep Jaren Jackson Jr. at the 4, and then I think Adams comes out of the game early, probably first time outish. They move Jackson Jr. to the 5. Who else do we have here? We've got Brandon Clark, obviously we spoke about. He'd be the guy coming off the bench, potentially playing some 4-5 for him. Danny Green, he's there for him, good veteran presence, but their bench, there's a few young guys that are fighting for minutes, so I'm interested to see who establishes themselves in the rotation. Xavier Tillman, Zaire Williams, Kenny Lofton Jr. There's a couple of guys there, Tyus Jones. So I'm not sure what their bench will look like. It's not fantastic. It probably goes to 7-8 deep, I think, as far as names I know. But I'm sure there'll be a few gems that we didn't really know much about that'll come out and earn some minutes in the rotation. But they'll be fun to watch. They're a fun team with grit and grind. But I think they're about right where they are in the West.
Yeah, Bogues, they're an interesting team. Morant, missed a lot of time, especially in the playoffs with injury, but they still they toughed it out. They played guys hard. They're a tough out, especially at home. They're a good team. They're tough guys. They've got shooting. They've got toughness. They've got rebounding. They just got to stay healthy. Morant's got to stay healthy. He's got that Derrick Rose sort of syndrome where he just finishes everything hard off his legs and joints. So hopefully he could just stay healthy throughout the whole year. Jaren Jackson is another guy, just signed a huge deal in the offseason. He's got to stay healthy. And if those two guys can stay healthy and the rest of the role players don't sort of lose vision of who they are, the Desmond Baines and the Dylan Brooks, and Brandon Clark. Once those guys start getting paid and they start getting a little bit of media, can they stay with what brought them there last year? A lot of times, as a role player, you start getting a little media and a little hype and people start talking to you. You start getting disillusioned to who you are as a player. And they can't lose their identity of, look, this is Ja's team, and everybody's just going to sort of play around that and play off of it, play in their role and just sort of next man up. And if they can do that, they're going to be really good. Are they good enough to beat a Dallas? Maybe. I mean, they've got enough sort of talent spread out throughout their team. They're sort of like a Dallas where they don't have star power outside of like their best player, but they've got all these other players, the Baines and the Brookses and the Jacksons that could really step up and score 19 or 20 if you need them to. But they could also rebound, move the ball, defend. So they're a good team. I think they're going to be a solid team for sure. And someone that can win a series and maybe possibly get to a conference final. It's going to be tough because the West is so good, but they're an entertaining team that I'm looking forward to watch this year.
Yeah, I agree. They're one of the lowest seeds that could potentially shock a 3 seed, potentially, depending on who it is. Maybe a Phoenix-Memphis series in the first round. They could definitely win that series. All right, 7, Minnesota, Rudy Gobert. They're big, basically gave up the house for Rudy Gobert. I don't think it moves the needle that much for them, as much as they will improve on last season. I think their defense will improve. My question is, a Cat Gobert lineup, I just don't think it's going to be sustainable long term. It does kind of help Cat a little bit because he's not great defensively. I think he improved a little bit last season, but he still needs to get better. I don't know how long that lasts to play basically 2 7-footers or just under 7 foot. So that'll be interesting in itself. Like I said, I think they'll be good defensively. They'll be better defensively than they were, having an elite rim protector. But it's a matter of, I see Rudy being a 20, 25-minute guy on that team. I don't think he's playing the 40, high, mid-40s, low 40s that he was playing in Utah. I think he's going to be dragged a lot when they move Cat. They love having Cat at the 5 because it creates so much mismatches. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Edwards, obviously a superstar, continues to get better. He's the guy that's going to take them as far as they go, in my opinion. They've got Kyle Anderson on that roster as well. Starting lineup will be, I assume it's going to be Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, and the 3. They messed with it a little bit in preseason, but you could potentially throw Kyle Anderson in there. You could put, who else do they have? Austin Rivers, maybe if you want a 3-guard lineup. I don't see that. I think he's better off the bench. But yeah, then they got other young stars, power forwards. Jaden McDaniels, Luka Garza's there as well out of Iowa. So there's a few young guys. Eric Pascal's there as well. Who would you have as that starting 3 spot, pro, next to D'Angelo and Edwards? I
would probably have McDaniels, to be honest with you. I sort of like having Prince and Rivers off the bench, Anderson off the bench, in my opinion. Although you could maybe start Anderson, go a little bigger, and then have some passing, because he's a high IQ guy that could sort of do different things. But that's sort of my opinion. How that sort of goes. So we'll see.
Yeah, where did you have them? You had them at 7 as well?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Actually, I have them at 8.
You had New Orleans,
I had New
right?
Orleans at 8. Yeah, I had New Orleans ahead of them. It's an interesting deal, Bogues, to be honest with you, with this team. Because they have star power with Edwards and they got scoring with Towns and defense with Gobert, but I just don't trust them, man. I don't. At the end of the day, I just don't trust these guys and to do enough. Defensively, they're going to be a disaster, and I just don't think they're going to be able to rebound from that. I don't. That's just sort of my opinion on things. I just don't think they're going to be able to do enough defensively. I think they're going to be a joke.
Even with Rudy.
Well, yeah, but Rudy. But who's Towns going to guard? He's going to be running around like a madman out there trying to guard a lot of these stretch fours. I don't, what? Yeah. Sometimes, it's funny. We talk about fake news all the time and all that stuff. We joke about that. But, you go on the internet and it stinks, especially when you're in fantasy basketball and you're drafting before you watch guys play. And you have these little clips you see on Twitter and Instagram and stuff. And you're like, oh, I can't play this guy, or this guy's going to be a star. He put up 29 and 18 against the Mavericks. But did you see that the Mavericks didn't play anybody last night? Like, so sometimes you have this false sense. Well, there's this clip of I think Minnesota played Brooklyn, and Towns was just chasing guys around, and they were just going. It was literally like you could have that circus music going in the background, like da 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 da. Like he was just like lost defensively. Look, he could really score. He could really rebound. He's solid. I mean, he's an all-star level talent, and you got Rudy to clean a lot of that stuff up. But I just think like it's interesting though. Rudy really couldn't close playoff games the last couple of years. And you empty the whole, all your assets to get him. And look, I'm a big Rudy Gobert fan. He rebounds, he blocks shots, does all that stuff, and he's veteran presence. But it's interesting just going big like that, how you guard the perimeter. But, I don't know. Edwards is the star in the making for sure. Russell gives you scoring, and he could, he sort of hunts those assists. And you just, you get guys who could do some things for sure. I don't think their moves like you said, they don't really move the needle. I just don't see them really being able to win a playoff series. I see them being able to maybe get out of the play-in, possibly, and get there. But I don't.
And celebrate like they won a chip.
Yeah, no, they don't have Beverly this year. So, but I just don't see. Like nothing really comes at me. Look, they got nice players. Don't get me wrong. They've got the Edwards and the Towns and Gobert. And their bench is decent. They got guys like Rivers and Prince could give you a little bit, and Kyle Anderson and Naz Reid. Like those are decent guys to watch. But the West is good. It's not like after the top heavy teams. It's not like it's not great, but I just don't see these guys really upsetting a higher seed team. I just don't see where it goes from there, And
yeah, I agree. Yeah, they are where they are. Maybe they surprise us, but I doubt it. But yeah, they are where they are. They kind of their moves didn't really move the needle either way, in my opinion. So they're stuck in that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 area, I believe. New Orleans Pelicans, you had them at 7, I had them at 8, so pretty much the same. Man, this team can cause some issues defensively. They got a lot of long, athletic, like-for-like guys when they go to switching lineups. They potentially will start, I think Devontae Graham will start at the 1. At the 2, you got CJ McCollum. Ingram will be at the 3. Interested to see whether they go Zion. I think Zion starts at the 4 and Valanciunas at the 5 to start games, and then they'll end up moving Zion to the 5. I think, a la the Grizzlies, they'll start big and then probably drag Valanciunas pretty early. But Valanciunas is end up probably only playing 15 to 20 in my opinion. I think they'll go Zion at the 5 a lot. Larry Nance Jr. is there as a great backup. Veteran Garrett Temple. Who else? Herbert Jones. Maybe he's improved his 3-point shot. Maybe he sneaks into that starting lineup. Who knows? But he's a huge factor for them defensively. Like I said, Dyson Daniels, another guy, he's going to be a huge factor for him defensively. They've got a lot of guys that you put Ingram, Daniels, and who did I just mention? The other long guy, Herbert Jones, on the floor together. That's 3 long spider type guys, like they can just get all over you. Then you got Jose Alvarado, who's improved a lot. His offense has gotten much better this season. I think he's been much more. I think he had a 30 ball. It is preseason, but he had 28 or 30 in preseason. So he brings a lot of energy and passion, picking up full court. They're going to be a tough team. Just I think they can just have a lot of different lineups. They can jump games up. They can switch 1 through 5. They can go small. They can go big. So I like their roster. They're a nice young team, building for the future, and I think they're. They could shock out of the play-ins, in my opinion. You always have them beating, Minnesota or someone like that in a playing game in a one-off. So I like where they're at.
Bogues, my question, for the last year or so is how much Zion Williamson impacts winning. I know he packs the stat sheet for sure, 1,000%. But my question is can he really, how much does he impact winning with everything that he does? Because the guy's an anomaly, what he does statistically for sure, 1,000%. But I just got to know, how does he really move the needle for you with, impacting winning or what he does?
He's young, pro. He's young. Look, what is this, year 3 or 4? And young guys generally go through that. It's a matter of, the question is, can he can Coach Willie Green get him to buy into that? That's the question.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. It just like that to me would be the biggest thing. Like, look, he's going to put up his numbers. He's going to be a video game for sure. And like Ingram and McCollum, like they've got all these guys. Valanciunas plays this great role of a guy who could score and rebound. And then they've got this bench that, Alvarado surprises you. Devontae Graham is solid. Larry Nance Jr. sort of, cleans things up. So they've got guys for sure that can help you. But they've got a potent first team for sure. They've got a lot of scoring options, but Zion's got look, he looks in phenomenal shape. I know a lot of the shit we give him, for being out of shape and all that, but he does look like he's in really good shape. If he could, knock down shots consistently, play on the perimeter a little bit, continue to do what he does, in the paint, rebounding and bullying people. Valanciunas is going to do his thing. Ingram's going to be a scorer. It'll be interesting how Ingram sort of makes the change in his game. Now having McCollum there for a full season, Zion there, does Brandon Ingram still put up his 22? Maybe he doesn't have to. Maybe he could go to 18 or 19, be a little more efficient. Zion's going to obviously be a bulk of the load with their, with touches and things. So they're a fun team. Like, I think that they're going to be better than Minnesota, at the end of the day. I think they're going to be a better team than Minnesota because, I think you could do more things with their lineups and they're going to be a little bit more creative. And, they're just a fun team to watch. I hope Daniels can get some time here and there so you could just sort of see where he develops. And, that's sort of where I see him. So I think.
Yep, agreed. I've got the Lakers at 9, Pro. You've got them at 10. Pro, the bookies have the Lakers at 4th or 5th in the West, so I don't know if they know something we don't. But
yeah, you know why? Because Guido Procopio is rep by Clutch Sports. That's why they bought one of their casinos in the Netherlands.
Maybe I saw that. I saw all the bookies. They have them 4/5, which is very interesting. Look, you just never know. I have them low for this very reason. I'm just not sold on them. I think that they look one of the most dysfunctional looking teams in preseason. It is preseason, great, but they look dysfunctional. It's looking like Russ at the 1, Beverly at the 2, LeBron at the 3, AD, and then I think Damian Jones at the 5.
But they said Westbrook's coming off the bench.
Okay, so then they're starting.
Nunn.
Who is it then? Nunn?
I heard Nunn and Beverly. It will be the backcourt.
Okay, Nunn and Beverly. I mean, it is what it is. It's a mix of shit that just doesn't fit. I mean, even the Toscano Anderson signing, I have no idea why. I love his game in Golden State, but why would that didn't make sense to me. Lonnie Walker's brought some energy for him. I think he'll be okay with some minutes. Schroeder, he's hurt at the moment, but I think when he's back, he'll be okay. Austin Reeves is fun to watch. So they've got a couple of guys that are players. Scottie Pippen Jr. is on the squad. I don't think he'll play that much. Wayne Gabriel's earned a few minutes here and there. Thomas Bryant, before the ACL, was playing really good basketball, so he might earn some minutes. But this roster there's no method to the madness of this roster. It's just all over the place. Everyone's saying AD is going to have an All-NBA year and they're going to be back in the mix. I don't believe it. I have them lower just like you do for that very reason. I think it's going to be a shit show. I think the only thing they have going for him is LeBron's going for a scoring title, so he's not going to shut it down early. So that's why I give him a playing game, because I think that even if they're 9, 10, 11, he's going to continue to play to get that scoring title, which means they'll still be competitive and they'll fight for a 9 or a 10 spot even if they're having a horror season. So I think they're getting a play-in, but that's about as far as they go, in my opinion. Pro, you?
Well, I'll tell you what, I fucked my fantasy team up. I wanted LeBron in my second pick because I had the 12th pick and then the first pick of the second round, and LeBron was on the board. So I took Booker with my first pick, and I was going to take LeBron because I think LeBron's going to go all out to beat Kareem's record and just be,
100%, 100%.
And I end up pressing the draft button by accident, and it got Trae Young, so I'm not a happy camper. But that's just me. All right, so the Lakers itself, Bogues, they're just not very good. They're just not good. Look, LeBron's going to go all world. I think he's going to be close to his 30 a game. Those stats he put up last year, I think he's going to do it again. Guys, being one of the most reliable health guys, throughout his career, minus a couple years. So he's going to go for his. Then you got Davis, which I can't trust Davis to stay healthy. That's just me. I just can't trust him to stay healthy throughout the whole year. So you're putting your trust in Anthony Davis, not performing. He's going to perform, but staying healthy. Then the rest of the lineup is what it is. Beverly is what he is. Like he'll give you that 9-3 or 9-4. Kendrick Nunn's got to stay healthy, and what is he really going to give you as a full-time starter? Their bench is just okay. Westbrook and the Lonnie Walkers of the world and Austin Reeves, they're just not good. They don't have, they needed to address shooting, and they didn't address shooting. That's the thing. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I mean. They got Toscano Anderson.
Yeah.
Just no disrespect to him. He fits in the right system, but your one area of concern was shooting, and you went out inside a guy who doesn't shoot. It's just mind boggling. And then, they give Plinker an extension, which is crazy. I guess he got a chip in the last couple of years, but it's just it's a train wreck of a roster, in my opinion.
I mean, Bogues, to me, I don't know, you just gotta. This isn't all that hard. You have your superstars, which you already have. And then you make moves to just sort of play off of those superstars. LeBron and Davis need the ball in their hands. So now what you need to surround them with is players that don't need the ball in their hands. Shooters. Shooters, guys that could defend off the bench and give you energy and just give you those high efficient, high energy guys that could shoot and guard. And they just don't have that. You got to go in and you got to trust that Thomas Bryant and Damian Jones is going to get you through the night in your second unit to really produce for you, which those guys really haven't been productive. You are quote unquote championship level team, and you bring in those guys to really produce for you coming off the bench. And it all comes down to the Horton Tucker deal where they could have had, a Gata Lowry or even a DeRozan in trade if they traded that guy. And they held on
early on. Yeah,
I know it's, that's 2 years ago and I get that. But here's where we are. You've got a above average starting lineup with LeBron James, one of the all-time greats that's still at producing at a top 10 level in the NBA. You got Anthony Davis, who just can't stay healthy, but produces and does what he does. And then you got Westbrook, who, look, everybody likes to bash Westbrook. I don't bash him where he can't play anymore. He just can't play with this team. So now you've got that dynamic going. You've got a bench that really can't defend. That you don't have really consistent shooting. And you just don't have that. So I don't understand the excitement for the Lakers. I'm not trying to be cute with this. I'm not trying to be backhanded. I'm trying to be honest. You don't have the shooting and you don't have the defense to really go high level. The Toscano Anderson, there's a reason why he was sort of on a championship team and no one really signed him, and you got him literally for the vet minimum. Didn't play for the Mexican national team in the summer where he could have got a lot of good reps playing in those windows to get them better. Didn't play there. I just not a big Toscano Anderson fan. He's an all right player. But again, he's not going to rise the needle. None of those players raised the needle. Lonnie Walker was an okay player on a really bad team in San Antonio. Reeves really hasn't shown it yet because he hasn't been in the league long enough. And then Bryant and Jones really haven't showed it yet. So I just don't see. Schroeder's an all right player, but he hasn't been a guy that people could depend on the last couple year and a half or so. Bogues, I just don't see it. I could, and they're a better team than Portland. Their starting lineups are comparable, but I think that the Lakers second unit's better than Portland. But I just don't trust the Lakers. It ends up being a shit show. Usually guys shutting it down, all this stuff. And I could see a lot of that happening this year if things aren't going to go the way they want them to go. I just don't see it, Bogues. I tried to think of every type of scenario I was fucking, I don't know, I was some fucking mad scientist. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't find any scenario where they're going to be really good, where they're going to be even competing for a top 5, 6, 7 seed. I think they're a 9, maybe I think they're a 10, possibly a 9. And then if they make this Westbrook deal for Buddy Hield and Turner, to me, it's the dumbest move they can make. Because, okay, you trade those 2 unprotected picks in Westbrook to get back Buddy Hield, who's a solid player, gives you shooting. There's your starting guard. They get a little bit more shooting. He's okay. He's a good player, but he's not bringing you off, bringing you to the next level. And then you bring Turner in, which will probably come off the bench if I'm a betting man. So now you gave up your future of 2 unprotected picks, 4 or 5 drafts from now, where you might be really bad, and that could be a top 5, top 7 pick, and you never know. With all those high school kids that will be able to enter the draft, you could be good. So you're going to give that up to what? That maybe they can get you to the 8th seed. Those 2 guys aren't winning you a playoff series. So again, they'll do it because they want to win the press conference, get excited about, Buddy Hield like you brought in the next fucking Elgin Baylor. But I just don't see it, Bogues.
Agree. I think they're going to be bad. I think the LeBron circus will be pretty, or the bandwagon will be pretty full just because of the scoring title, and I think it's a great accomplishment, don't get me wrong. So I think there'll be a lot of hype around that, but as far as the team, don't see it. Number 10, my final spot, I mean, as I said, I think this can be a few teams. I think Houston have a chance at it. Maybe OKC, I'm not sure, but I think I put Portland in 10 on that last spot. I think Dame's enough to get him there. I think he's, a lot of people aren't talking about him right now, not a lot of talk about Portland, so I think if they stay healthy, that's the key for them, like most teams, but especially this team. They've had a lot of injuries in the past. Dame Lillard, Anthony Simmons is coming into his own. I like what he's been doing. Nurkic will probably most likely be the 5 man. They got Josh Hart, Jeremy Grant at the 4. So they've got a decent starting lineup that'll be competitive. Obviously, they poached Gary Payton II from the Golden State Warriors. And then they got a bunch of young guys they're developing. So they got a bunch of guys off the bench that might surprise some people, as we don't know too much about. But all in all, they'll be okay. They'll be competitive. Dame has a few of those 30, 40-point nights. They could win some games, but they're right about where they should be in 10th spot, pro.
Yeah, Bogues, look, they've got like we've talked about before, they've got a decent team. They got a good starting lineup. I think they did upgrade for sure. I thought they upgraded their team in the offseason. Jeremy Grant, they re-signed Simons. You got Nurkic coming back. They're a good team. Where they lose it is their bench. Gary Payton Jr., which I just drafted by accident on fantasy again because I'm a fucking moron. But you got Gary Payton Jr., you got, Josh Hart, who's a decent player. You got Watford and Drew Eubanks. I just don't think those guys are good enough to really take you to another level. So the question is, where are you, if you're the Portland Trailblazers? Because you're not competing for anything, really. You're not going to win a playoff series. I think you're going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves this year, where if you win the play-in, you're going to treat it like the championship. I don't think you could really beat anybody. You signed Dame Lillard to this huge deal, where I think that you got to take a look at things where, before signing him to that extension, really had that discussion to him. Look, we love you, but we're not good. Obviously teams aren't going to be honest with the players, but you got to be honest and say, look, even with Jeremy Grant, we're not really going to go far. So where do you want to do with this thing? And look, if you got 5 draft picks for Rudy Gobert, you should be able to get a little bit more for Dame Lillard, in your package. So to me, it's like, what are you doing? You got Dame Lillard and you got a bunch of these other guys that really, I just don't think move the needle. You're not going to, I guess they could, they put all this, time and effort in the summer trying to upgrade their team. So they're not going to try to tank for the French kid, but maybe they do. Who knows? But I just don't see them going anywhere. And they're not with Dame Lillard and Simons and Grant. And you're good enough to you're not good enough to be, you're not bad enough to be in that top 3.
You're
top
in no
4
man's
range.
land.
Yeah. You're in nowhere.
You're in purgatory. You're in purgatory.
And you're spending all this money. You don't spend Golden State money, but you spend money I don't know. I don't know where you're going. And maybe one of these guys they drafted or whatever is any good. I don't know. But I just don't know where they're going right now. And it's a problem because now, none of, as we saw in the Dwight Howard thing, none of these careers end well. like at the end. They never end well. The Dame Lillard thing, where like he's always been about Portland, I think he always will be, at least in the media's eyes and in the public. But at what point does he start getting a little bit like, what am I doing here? I'm spinning my wheels. Like, we're not going to win. I'm getting up there in age. I want to win. I want to be there for my city, but what are we doing? So I think that some of that stuff's going to come into effect as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're just they're in, like you said, they're not close to getting a top 2, 3, 4 pick unless they get super lucky, like a 1 in a million chance, and they're not close to a decent playoff run. So they're in purgatory. They're in that no man's land that you never want to be as a pro team, and they're spending money. New rule on the pod, Pro, I've decided, I just made it up. If you're not in our top 10, we're not giving you an in-depth. So you need to earn that right. I'm just quickly going to go through my 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 with a one-liner, and then you can reciprocate. I've got Houston in 11. I think they'll be fun to watch, up-tempo. I think they could beat the best one night and then lose to the worst the next. So that kind of team, young and dumb. OKC, number 12, development phase still. I'm hearing SGA will want out soon. That's kind of the rumor, the word on the street. They might push him out. And I think they want to keep the ball in Giddy's hands because he loves having the ball in his hands. Utah at 13. I mean, full rebuild, but a lot of young guys that'll play hard, so I don't have them at the bottom. Sacramento at 14. I probably could have them a little bit higher. I know you do, but I have a vote of no confidence for. I mean, they need to show me something. I'm not sold on them. They've got a new coach. They'll have a bit of life. They probably will finish higher. I'm being a bit hard on them, but they need to. I've got no confidence in everything they're doing. So they need to give me something to have them a little bit higher. And then the Spurs, they're just in the old. They're on the Victor. Welcome to San Antonio. They're in ultimate tank mode. This is going to be a tough one. For those that don't know, Chase Buford is the head coach of the Sydney Kings, and his mum was in town the last couple of days. So, who is obviously RC's wife, and I said, "Oh, it's going to be a long year for you," and she just gave me that look, like, "I think so." So, they're going to be pretty bad, but I think that's strategic. They're trying to blow it up and get in that Victor sweepstakes and hopefully find their next Tim Duncan. Pro, give me your rundown on those 5.
So, Bogues, I got at 11, I got Houston. I think Houston's got the best young talent in the league. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just telling you, like, as far as their young talent and their young group, I think that, they're really good, and they're going to start trying to win games. Everybody's in the Victor, sweepstakes, but I think, like, these guys are trying to like show out. They're trying to show everybody they can play a little bit, with the Porter and Green and Jabari Smith and all that. So I got them at 11. I got Sacramento at 12. I don't really believe in what Sacramento's doing either. I just don't think they have the talent. I love Harrison Barnes, but I just don't see where they're going. Look, they got a high draft pick. They've got guys, but they're just not. To me, they're just the team that wouldn't shoot straight, right? And Keegan Murray's a good rookie that they got, and they got Sabonis and stuff. But like, I don't believe in them. I just don't think they're going to be very good this year. So I got them at 12. Oklahoma City, they're completely in the tank. They're really going to try to get Victor. I don't think they're bad enough to get, like, even though they're going to probably get Alexander out. I do agree with that. They want to lose and they want to get Victor. Now, I was actually having a conversation with an NBA front office guy right before we started the podcast. What happens if Oklahoma City does get the first pick and they get Chet Holmgren and Victor, the kid Victor, in the same lineup? What do you do? So, it's just an interesting.
Can Victor? I haven't watched a lot of Victor's games. Is he generally starting at the 4-5, or can he guard perimeter? Can he move his feet out there?
He can move his feet,
perimeter?
Bogues, but he's still 7'4".
Yeah.
That's the issue with him. Like, and I also was talking to him before, Bogues, about this. This kid they're talking about the best prospect in the draft ever in the NBA. And look, not every number one pick draft has a guy that everybody just has to have, and it's going to be like a no thought about it. Guy's going to be an all-timer. And you go back to the Kareem drafts, the Yao Ming drafts, the Duncan draft, Ewing, LeBron, and Shaq. Those are the guys that, like, even Jordan's draft, they didn't think Jordan was going to be what he was. So like, but this guy is the most hyped guy you'd ever want to see. He can move his feet. He could really shoot. He's one of the more offensively gifted guys I've ever seen. And the funny thing is Chet Holmgren was one of the like biggest freaks I've ever seen offensively in a good way, like being over 7 feet tall, being able to dribble the ball, shoot it and things. So yeah, just to be interesting if Oklahoma City got it and got those two giants in the same lineup. And then I think San Antonio is going to do everything they can. Look, I mean, they are brutal. Like I remember Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where Mel Brooks was trying to tank the producers, the show, where like, trying to get Larry David as the star. They knew he wasn't going to be good. That's what basically in free agency and what they did to this team in the summer, trying to just like, I was thinking about it because I didn't see Victor yet. I've heard about him, but I didn't see him. And I'm like, San Antonio is really not doing much with this free agency. They trade Murray away, and they've got this starting team of like, oof, Keldon Johnson and Podol and McDermott, Vassell and Jones. Like, wow, like, what are you doing? But then now you look at this kid last week or 2 weeks ago, and you're like, now I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to get this kid. So I get them at 14 and then Utah at 15, in the Victor sweepstakes. So that's where I see things.
It's about right. Yeah, it's about right. I mean, the bottom fives is what it is. Those of you that are listening, let us know what you agree with, what you disagree with. I'll get some shit. We'll probably get some shit, both of us, for our Clippers pick, because a lot of people that are like, huh? Mm-hmm. How can you pick them? They haven't proved themselves, but they are healthy, so we can only go by that. Let us know what you think in the comments and the social media posts. Would appreciate that. Real quick, Dabble is betting meets social media. Dabble, you can follow your friends and mates, stalk the experts. I'm not an expert, but you can stalk me if you like. Trending tipsters, you can scroll through trending bets and copy them all in one tap straight to your profile. So as I said 100 different times, if you do a 10-leg multi, you don't have to go and then enter each leg individually. You can just copy and paste it straight to your device through the app. That's technology these days. But you can get alerts when your mates and tipsters place bets. And most importantly, you can follow me, Andrew Bogut, all one word on there. I'll get some bets going as the NBA season starts. I'm actually going down to do some stuff for Dabble over the next week and do some videos and some fun stuff. So look out for that. Download the app, Dabble, all one word, Dabble socially, and you must gamble responsibly. The NBL, what a round we had. You can probably tune out a little bit now and really study on your virtual draft.
The draft's already done.
Who you got real quick? Who's your team?
Oh, man. So I got go ahead. You go through and outside the team before we go.
You can say that for the end, the little cookie for all the listeners. All right, so the NBL, great round. Every road team but one won this round. So only one home team held home court, which was very interesting. So
interesting. A
lot of losses to the home teams. Adelaide was the only one that won versus Illawarra. Tasmania are back in form. Scott Roth has got those cigars out, those stogies. He's lighting them all up in Tasmania,
of course,
while he's riding that bike. And they huge weekend. They beat Adelaide at Adelaide. They came off that great road trip in the NBA where they beat the Phoenix Suns and all that hype. They ended up losing their first game back, which is always a trap game, pro, because you've got that long-ass flight coming back and then you're playing to different rules and different feel than the NBA. And they beat Melbourne United at Melbourne, which was very, very impressive. I think Melbourne United are going to be looking for an import. I think Jordan Caroline will be the first gone. He came off the bench last game and was second forward off the bench to Nawara. So I just don't see him solidifying his spot. I just think that he's losing confidence by the day. I think head coach Dean Vickerman is losing confidence in him also. And it's, look, you never want to see imports have a short leash and get fired and all that, because there's a lot that goes into it, that maybe he has a family and all that, and it's harsh and whatnot. But I just think that the writing's on the wall for him, and he's out of here. And sorry, I made a mistake. That was Aquera, not Waba. That's a bit of confusion for me. But yeah, Aquera's coming off the bench before him. So worrying signs there for Jordan Caroline. I think they replace him. Cairns, a bottom four pick for most, including myself. They've started off the year phenomenally. They're in the top four. Aaron Ford, former head coach of the Sydney Kings, has them purring. They beat the Sydney Kings on their home floor in Sydney on Friday night. I was watching that game, and Cairns just, we shot ourselves in the foot and missed a boatload of free throws, but I think 15 free throws we missed. But Cairns deserved that win. I tweeted that. They deserved it. They hard fought, hard-nosed team. They're 3-1 at the moment, and they're in third place, so credit to them. My question for them is at the burnout, they play a short rotation for the most part, 7-8 deep. Aaron Ford likes to have really short rotation, high minutes for most of his starters, and I know they practice very, very hard. So I'm interested to see what they're looking like in round 8, 9, 10, but right now they're looking fantastic. So credit to Aaron Ford and the Cairns Taipans. Brisbane Bullets, Aaron Baines, Tyler Johnson, Nathan Sobey, 0-4 start. They lost to the Sydney Kings yesterday. I went to that game live and watched it in person. Kings got off to a rough start. We shot our first 10 field goal attempts, 8 of them were threes, and we didn't hit any of them. I think we hit one of them maybe, and we were down by 10 or 15, and then we came back and ended up winning by, I think, 15 or 20 at the end. Brisbane looking a little disjointed. Is it time for panic probe? I don't know, because the reality of it is they've lost to the Sydney Kings twice, who were the champs last season. They lost to Perth in Perth, always a tough place to play, and they lost to Tasmania, who were the grand finalists. So they're their 4 losses. I don't think it's completely time to panic. Doesn't look great, but for people out there that are Bullets fans or NBL fans, you got to put it into context. They've played 3 of the better teams, 2 of them being the champions, 2 games being against the champions. You never want to be 0-4. I think they should have got the Tassie game. Tasmania, they were up, I think, by 15 at one point. They definitely should have got that, and it could have been 1-3. But their schedule is going to start to ease up. Yesterday was also their first home game of the season. So if you're a Bullets fan, hold on to hope. You never know. The Kings, at one point in the season, last season, were 3-6, and they went on to winning championships. So you never know what can happen. New Zealand are better than I thought, Pro. I think they're going to be solid. They got Rupert, who's a highly touted, probably a first-round pick. I've had some scouts reach out about him. Didn't have the best game against Southeast Melbourne, but long, athletic strides. Looks like he cares. Little things you notice about him. He's engaged offensively, gets subbed out. He's on the bench talking. He's cheering for his teammates. You don't see that with a lot of young stars coming into the NBL, because a lot of them, unfortunately, think they're bigger than the NBL. It's just a one-year stop. So I liked what I saw as far as his teammateship and his camaraderie. I think they're going to be better than most people thought, better than I thought, especially with games in New Zealand. So looking forward to seeing them. 2 more things in the NBL. The Matt Logue has gotten a hold of some somewhat confidential information that he shouldn't have got a hold of, but he got a look at the salary breakdown from every team of last year. Now, this isn't public, Pro. It's not made public by the NBL or anybody, and it's confidential, but it is now public. He has put it in an article online. Over the soft cap, Perth Wildcats 400k over, Tasmania Jack Jumpers 90k over, and Melbourne United were 50k over. Under the soft cap, Cairns Taipans, they were 300k under, so they really didn't spend money last season. They generally don't. They're a budget team for the most part. Brisbane came in second with 265 under the cap. Adelaide 140. The Sydney Kings 135 under the cap. The Phoenix were 130, New Zealand 125 under, and Illawarra were 80k under the cap. So this is taboo. It's not supposed to be spoken about. NBA doesn't like it, but it is public because it was probably leaked from someone who shouldn't be leaking it. Some people are insinuating that it was the Kings, but unfortunately for you, I penned a letter at the start of the season outing our own numbers. If people remember correctly, I did a letter to the fans just stating that, a lot of people thought we bought a championship, and I said that's not true. We're 7th in the league in salary cap spend, so we had no need to leak any of this to the media, nor would we, because it's confidential in nature. So interesting to see if the NBL find out who it was. But that was, look, outside of that, I'm heavily pro team salaries and player salaries being made public for a plethora of reasons. I think it's a great talking point. It gets fans debating. It helps fans understand the CBA and how different things hit the cap differently. There's a lot of rules in the NBL with Asian player exemptions, there's next stars, there's injury replacements. That all affects your cap. Our GM, Chris Pongrass, Sydney Kings, does a phenomenal job of knowing every little nuance of how we can, the rule says we can do this and it's going to save us this, let's do it. Fantastic at it. But I think the fans would love to know more about this, Pro. I think having that debate and, that player's not worth this much, we only played this guy this much, he was great value, or wow, that team, like the Perth Wildcats, they spent 400 over the cap last season, didn't even make the top 4. So I think they're great conversations. For some reason, the NBL doesn't want it released, and the NBL Players Association or Australian Players Association don't want it released neither. But I think it's a good thing long term. It'd be a first in Australian sport. Australian sporting leagues do not release player salaries. Stuff gets leaked from time to time, but not as a whole. So that was interesting that Matt Lowe got his hands on that when he shouldn't have, but that's good journalism on his part. So that was interesting. One last thing I want to hit you with, and this goes back to your point, Pro, that you made, I think last year, about you preferred watching EuroLeague over the NBA, right? And you got some shit from a few people. I noticed that online. Oh, come on, that's bullshit. Well, Luke Longley is doing a speaking gig all around Australia, telling his story, kind of an in-person with Luke Longley type feel. And he mentioned that he preferred to watch the NBL over the NBA. Now, he is obviously part of the Sydney Kings as an advisor, but I would have to agree, and I'll put a caveat on it, regular season basketball. So regular season basketball, I enjoy the NBL more than the NBA, and it's because I know both teams are going to fight tooth and nail to get the win. There's 1 or 2 games a week. Guys aren't too tired. They're not off a plane. They're not out on the streets. And it's, you can argue the referee's not as good, the playing level's not as good, or this isn't as good, or they're not as athletic. Totally get it. I'm talking as pure basketball, X's and O's, mono and mono, playing hard. I would prefer today to watch a regular season NBL game over an NBA. Now playoffs is a different story. I take the NBA playoffs as a whole different. It jumps 15-fold. And I just wanted to mention that because Luke Longley's he's on your train, Pro.
Yeah, I'm not on his fucking train. As we saw the last time he was on our show, he's on my train. All right, just so we know that. No, I'm just joking. I just think I don't watch a lot of the NBL just because of the time differences, but the
NBL / international basketball, yeah.
International basketball, yeah. I mean, the EuroLeague itself, it's just like, look, it's they play harder. The fans are into it way more, and the ball movement and the skill. They play through the post. And these coaches are going nuts. They're cussing out these players. They're not afraid of these fucking players. And it's pretty cool to see. It's old school basketball at its best. And, like Luka and Giannis has even said it, it's harder to score 25 to 30 in an international game than it is in the NBA because they don't give you all the foul calls and they don't have to take fouls and things. So it's harder. It's just a hard-nosed brand of basketball. Now, like you said, playoffs, it's not even close. Playoff NBA basketball, I love it. During the season, it's really hard to find teams that are really into it, players that are really into it on a long period of time. To say,
it's hard as a fan to me. It's hard as a fan. It's hard for me to get hyped up for game number 45, even if it is between I don't know, like Dallas and Phoenix with their rivalry. It's just hard for me to get hyped up because there's going to be someone resting. There's going to be guys out in the streets. There's going to be guys limping into it, sleepwalking through. It's just like, it's a regular season game, right? Now, towards the end of the season when teams are fighting for playoff spots, maybe a little bit different, but playoffs hold on a story. But yeah, I think it's the 82 games, and we've had this conversation before. I don't care if it goes to 60 or 70. You're still going to have the same issue. It's just not as fun to watch and not as competitive, I don't believe, as opposed to a smaller league with 20, 30 games.
No, I agree. I totally agree. It's just, there's not enough guys. They're saving themselves for the playoffs. They're really, especially the veterans, they don't really get into it, till game 12, 15, 16. It's just, it's tough to really get into an NBA game and, really gets, really excited to watch, to be honest. And it's nothing against the NBA. It's just sort of where we're at. And it's just those international games, they go at each other's throats, and it's pretty cool to watch, and I enjoy it. And yeah, it's an interesting deal.
Agree. Thank you, Luke Longley. Join the team with Pro, which you won't hear very often. All right, stats, useful or useless. Monte Morris, Pro, has played for 13 teams in 13 seasons. Pop quiz, can you name him, Pro?
No, fuck no, I can't name him.
Well, you got 13 out of 30. You got some chances, but anyway, I'll give them to you. Houston, Memphis, Golden State, Orlando, Milwaukee, Phoenix, OKC, Philly, New Orleans, Detroit, Washington, Charlotte, and Denver. Useful or useless?
Pretty useless, to be honest with you. It's just the life of a journeyman in the NBA. So, I mean, there are players not to that extreme that play with a bunch of different teams, but it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool little side stat that the guy played for 13 teams, but it's pretty useless, to be honest with you.
I think it's useful just to show what the grind takes. That's why I would say it's useful because, he's just going to find a way, no matter what, to just stick on a roster. He's not going overseas. I'm gonna find a roster spot somewhere, and he's found it 13 out of 13 seasons. Now he's going to have a lot of jerseys that he can hang up in his ballroom, but I respect that. I think a lot of people talk about stars and this and that, but it's hard, man. Like every season, he's probably living out of a suitcase. If he has a young family and kids and a wife, it can't be easy, right? So I'd assume they're based. Probably after his 5th trade, he's probably like, you know what? If I've got a family, I'm going to base them in one city and get them comfortable, and they'll come visit every now and then just so kids are in school and all that. But 13 and 13 is hard. I couldn't do it. I mean, I struggled with towards the end of my career. I was like 3 in 2 years, and I struggled with it. I like my homely kind of surrounds and familiarity and being comfortable. And when you're a journeyman, it's the opposite lifestyle. So I think it's useful for that fact. All right, bro, the Warriors will be paying $275 million plus just in luxury tax in 2024, assuming Draymond opts in. That number is higher than the total player salaries of the Knicks and the Grizzlies combined this season. Useful or useless?
I say it's useful for sure. It's a hell of a stat right there. It shows that how much money they're spending in comparison to what other people spend just on their salary, their team salary alone. So no, for sure, I think it's useful.
Useful. Jeez, the Knicks and Grizzlies combined.
It's crazy.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's bonkers. But Joe Lakers spending it, and they've got the new arena and all that kind of stuff. So they've got enough income to pay it all. So I don't feel bad for them at all. All right, most NBA starts since 2009, pro. Russell Westbrook, 1,004 NBA starts. LeBron James, 975. Useful or useless?
Yeah, useful, I guess. Guy's durable. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those that I don't really give a fuck about either way, but I guess it's useful, right?
I think if the 2009 wasn't in there, because they picked this. Maybe you circle back and was that maybe his rookie year? What was Russell's rookie year?
I think it's like
earlier, 07?
07 maybe, 06, 07.
So maybe 08, this is my point with some of these stats, maybe in 08 he missed 50 games,
That's crazy.
Let's pick 2009. But I think it's useful, it's a nothing stat, but I think it's useful to show that Westbrook probably doesn't get enough credit for his longevity, right? Like the guy doesn't miss a game. And whether you like him or hate him, he's a bad shooter, you call him Russell Westbrook, whatever you want to do, he deserves some credit for being out there every night. So I'll say useful for that fact too, pro. What do you got for us this week?
All right, Bogues. The LA Lakers will make the first round of the NBA playoffs, meaning they will be in the 8 teams in the first round of the playoffs this season in the first round of the playoffs. So
without a play-in?
No, they will make it out of the play-in, or they'll be the 8th seed. They will be in the first
or the 6. Yeah. Okay, I gotcha. Fake news. I just don't. I think they'll. Looking at a play-in, they're probably going to face Portland, or they'll probably get through that one, but they're not beating New Orleans, Minnesota, or Memphis. Or Memphis will be 6th by our predictions. So Minnesota, New Orleans, I think both those teams will beat the Lakers. So fake news. You?
I say it's fake news. I say they're not. I say they're going to be a play-in team and they're not going to get out of it. And I will give you a useless stat. Josh Giddey's shooting 53% from the 3-point line in preseason. Useful, useless.
You gotta love the preseason. Yeah. Useful. You gotta. It is a preseason, but hey, he's out there. He's out there getting them up. So his shot looks much better, and it's just. I think. He hasn't tweaked too much, but he's just confident now. He's just shooting it. He's like, you know what? Like, you want to go under all my screens? Cool, I'm just going to shoot it. And, he's not going to shoot that in the regular season, and no way, not even close. But if he's high 30s, man, that's at a volume of maybe 4 or 5 a game. Wow, like he's in another stratosphere of his growth.
And Bogues, they hired Chip England. Don't forget, from the San Antonio Spurs. The best. Probably the best shooting coach in the league, from San Antonio to there, taught Kawhi how to shoot, Tony Parker, and some of these other guys. See, he's an actual workout guy that works with you if you're the best guy and the 15th guy. He doesn't just work out NBA All-Stars, and if you're an All-Star to begin the season, he works with you, and then when he doesn't become an All-Star, he stops working with you, like certain Bay Area teams that have assistant coaches that do that. They actually, Chip England gets guys better. So he is really
Question
good.
for you, Pro, though. Does he get his hair cut during workouts?
No, but his trainer does. So, I mean, Josh Giddey's trainer does. So that is pretty cool.
I know.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Well, for the
pretty
people
interesting.
at home, yeah, that doesn't know. But yeah, I thought that was
There's a few trainers in the NBA off-season trainer guys that there's one that got photographed of he's in a barber chair in the workout facility getting his hair cut
Hey,
while the guys are working out.
It's unbelievable, man. I mean, the guy's got like 1 million followers on Instagram for a reason. He's an entertainer, and
he is. It's interesting though. I don't know how to feel about that. If I'm paying you all this money, they make big money. They pay big, 30, 40, 50 grand. These teams pay sometimes to send guys there.
That's the thing. This is where, like, look, our world isn't round. It's not flat. It's upside down. Like NBA, like I'm telling you, the world's just like you look around and you're like when I worked for Grover, there's no way. First of all, Grover would stab you in the throat if you ever, like, as a trainer, got your hair cut while guys are working out, first of all. But like NBA players would never stand for it. Most of them, I could say like 90%. Now they like it. They think it's cool. Like, and hey, look, who am I to say what NBA players should be thinking? So, but that's just the NBA players love the circus as much as anybody else. So, yeah, it's pretty
different
fun.
time. Yeah, it's a different time.
So, Bogues, the last one. So the GM did this. The GMs of the league did the survey of who's going to win MVP and all that. And I think we may have talked about it. We may not have on the show, but Luka Doncic was voted as the MVP. For the survey for NBA GMs. So I'm just going to give it to you. Luka Doncic will be the MVP of the 2022-2023 NBA season.
Well, the brain in me says to say fake news just based on odds because it's either him or the whole field. But I'm going to say fact. I think he will be. I think he's, like you said, he's influential to their wins. And he's fun to watch. As H-Bob Haralbos Volgaris, who was on the pod about 40-odd episodes ago, who was with the Mavs, always tells me he's a basketball Mozart. He's a guy that you go and watch and he leaves you in awe with what he does on the basketball court. And look, it's a tough field to compete against. He's got Giannis, he's got Jokic. Kawhi's back now too. AD, people are talking about he's going to push for an MVP. I don't believe that hype, but I will say fact on that. I'm on the Luka train for an MVP now. He needs to stay healthy though. He needs to stay healthy. He needs to play 60 plus to get it. And I think if he stays healthy and plays 60 plus, they're going to win 50, 60 odd games, and he's going to get the MVP.
I say fact as well, Bogues. I for a couple of reasons. I think that, like, if he came in his usual weight, I would say there is a chance for ankle injury or them to sit him a lot during the season. I think that they need him. First of all, he's in phenomenal shape. Second of all, they need him to especially without Brunson, they really need him to have a high usage rate and have the ball in his hands a lot this year. And I mean, I think, like I said, I think he impacts winning like no other in the league. And I think that they're going to need him. He puts up numbers. And it's funny that H-Bob called him the Mozart. I don't know if I told you this story. So earlier in the year, I called him the Matador because I like giving guys nicknames. Not because he played in Spain or anything, but just because, like, first of all, he controls the game like a Matador would in a bullfight. But also he plays to the crowd to win like no other. Like, the guy that's just got him going. Even before he was any good, I didn't know how good he was going to be, but I called him the Matador. And I remember, like, Cuban was looking at me. We were in Atlanta, or maybe Charlotte. I forgot in the preseason. He goes, "What are you calling him the Matador for?" I'm like, "Cube, the fucking guy's the Matador. Look at him." And he started liking it a little bit. Well, January, I forgot where we are. Maybe Utah. I wake up and I go on Hoops Hype, and Cuban bought the copyright or whatever it is, the rights to the Matador. And I'm like, I came up with the name, and the guy got the trademark. The guy trademarked the Matador, and I'm like, you can look it up. I was like, get the fuck out of here. So I ended up.
He didn't become a billionaire for no reason, bro.
I ended up giving him shit. I'm like, can I at least get like 1/8 of 1% of like your t-shirt sales? And he ended up getting a shoe called the Matador, and no one, Bogues, I'm telling you, no one called this guy the Matador. Me and DK, the sports psychologist, like we'd always fuck around. You know, he called like Nerlens Noel the straw because he was like shaped like a fucking straw. Like, so we'd call him straw, and if people would be looking at us, because me and DK just like screwing with people, and we started calling him the Matador, and nobody called him, and like people didn't like the Matador, and then one of our TV guys ended up calling him Luka Magic when he made like an unbelievable game winner against Portland, and then like any like chance of calling him the Matador was thrown out the window. So we got Bogut, but I just thought it was hilarious. I think it was in like December or whatever. You can look up the article because it says that Cuban filed trademark, and he goes, player development coach Mike Procopio developed the name the Matador for him. I just thought it was fucking hilarious. Wow. But anyways, that's my story.
All right, go. Give us your fantasy teams. We can give you shit.
All right, hold on. Let me just go to it. So, fantasy.
Are you paying the luxury tax? That is a question.
No. It ain't like that. So
no. I'm fucking around. You can't go over.
Yeah. So we do this. So I got Trae Young. So my first pick was Devin Booker. So then I go Trae Young, Zach LaVine, Tyler Hero, Tim Hardaway Jr., Jeremy Grant, Dorian Finney-Smith, R.J. Barrett, Jared Allen, Valanciunas, Zubac, Dylan Brooks, Norman Powell, Gary Payton Jr. and Seth Curry. And I already cut Gary Payton Jr. and I picked up Baisley from I need another power forward, so I had to cut Payton Jr. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever been drafted and cut on the same night in fantasy basketball history. But where I fucked this draft up was in two spots. I fucked up my second pick. Like I said, I think LeBron's going to put up dumb numbers this year. And and because I drafted 12th, last in the round, my picks always go last pick, first pick. So Trae Young was the next guy rated, and I ended up like hitting draft twice. So I got my first guy, Booker, which I wanted, and then I ended up getting Trae Young instead. And then I forgot the other pick, but I did the same thing. And I'm like, fuck, I drafted a guy by accident. I was like, oh, God, but missed out on LeBron James, but I got Trae Young, so I'm good with it. I think I'll be all right.
Keep us updated, bro. We'll see how you go.
Yeah.
Against all the experts.
Why not?
Is it you got money in that or not? Is it money?
Nah, no money. I just go. I just do I've been doing this league for like 9 years, and I won in COVID year, and I was gonna lose during COVID. Like remember how they shut the game, and they only go for regular season.
Yeah.
So like I was
doesn't count.
All my guys were hurt, and then COVID came. So I was sort of hoping they shut the season down, and I ended up getting the championship. And the guy was so pissed because he was gonna definitely railroad me in the last 20 games of the year. But because they shut it down, I had to win. I ended up winning by like 3 points, and the guy was so bullshit. There's no reason why I should have won that game.
Good old fantasy basketball. All right, that wraps up episode, I believe this is 78. We're getting up there, Pro. So thanks everyone for joining us at Hoop Consultants for Pro, at Andrew Bogut for Moi, and at Rogue Bogues on all your social media platforms. Give it a share. Let us know how we did with our picks, and we'll see you next week.
All right, guys. See you.
Let's get rogue.